his column every Monday morning during football season, Football Morning in America on NBCSports.com. Peter, it's Nick. Thank you for joining me. I'll dive right in. Let's do something I love to do. I don't know how much you love to do it. I'll make you do it anyway, ranking things. Do you think this is Brady's most impressive of his incalculable 7 Super Bowl rings?
Well, I think it was probably slightly more impressive to win the first one with the Patriots, because remember, that was against the greatest show on turf. That was when John Madden and Pat Summerall upstairs were saying, no, just sit on the ball, go play for overtime. Yeah. And Brady completed 4 passes on this drive to put him in field goal range. Vinatieri kicked the winning field goal. I thought that was awfully impressive. And, you know, look, this is incalculably impressive to me because Tom Brady didn't have an off season. He went to a new team. He's 43 years old. But the only reason why I might say that first one is more impressive is because the level of talent he had around him on this team was fantastic. You know, it is the best all-around talent that he's had on any team since he's been a quarterback in the NFL. And so my feeling is I could make an argument for either one, but that first one to me was awfully impressive too.
So we've talked a lot about Brady, Belichick, and, you know, does this make you reevaluate who gets more credit for the 6 Super Bowls they won? That to me is less interesting than the ending of it, because pretty clearly Bill Belichick felt that, okay, Tom Brady can be the greatest quarterback of all time, but it doesn't mean he's still a great quarterback. And Brady said, I am. You're not giving me a chance to show it. So how and why do you think Belichick miscalculated there, which now it's pretty clear he did, when he saw him every day? I got it wrong, but I don't see him every day. I just watch football. I'm like, it looks like he's going downhill. And so how do you think Belichick got it wrong?
I don't think he necessarily got it wrong. I think this is about the way that Bill Belichick wants to build his team. Of all the great things that Bill Belichick has done in his football career, and he's done an incredible number of them, building a team with even good offensive weapons has been one of the hardest things for him. And he could not do it and did not do it with this team. This past team in New England in 2019 and 2020, because the skill position players, you could see, and I sat with Brady for 10 minutes after the Tennessee playoff game, his last game as a Patriot, and you could just tell how frustrated he was. He wasn't angry at anybody. He was just frustrated because he didn't have enough. I think he didn't have enough weapons at all. And now you saw the same thing with Cam Newton. Everybody said, man, Cam stinks. Well, you tell me a quarterback who's going to look great when your best weapon for the whole year is Jacoby Myers. I don't see it. And so to me, I look at this team at this time right now, and I think any quarterback would be hard-pressed to win.
All right, I mentioned Belichick. I would have thought 72 hours ago the 2 most out-of-this-world Super Bowl defensive performances, Belichick had his fingerprints all over both of them. The 1990 Bills-Giants, like people forget, yes. That Bills offense, I mean, you know this, it was unstoppable.
They
and Belichick was the D coordinator for that Giants team.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah. Now, he did have Lawrence Taylor, but still, he's the D coordinator for that Giants team. They hold him in the teens. Everyone remembers it as the Norwood game, but the reason it could come down to that is because of that performance. And then 0-1, greatest show on turf. They held him to 3 points through 3 quarters before the Rams kind of exploded for a couple touchdowns at the end. I don't know if this performance by Todd Bowles matches those, but it comes damn close. What do you make of what Todd Bowles and the Bucs defense was able to do to a previously pretty unstoppable offense?
You know, I'd also add the Giants in 07 shutting down one of the great offenses of all time, you know, Spagnuolo. But you know what? I think, Nick, what is so interesting about the Todd Bowles job in this is that you need to remember that his secondary the 6 guys who played the most snaps in that secondary this year are all 24 years of age and younger, and every one of them has been drafted in the last 3 years. So this is a secondary almost of tots, you know. As Todd Bowles told me last week for my pre-Super Bowl column, he said, you know, our guys don't even know, like when they went to Lambeau Field, they don't know what the frozen tundra is. You know, so they don't have these sort of built-in memories that make it really hard to teach them or to erase what just happened. And the first time that they played the Chiefs this year, they were awful on defense. And their secondary, especially Carlton Davis, was awful. They designed a different game plan. And what I love about Todd Bowles' game plan is very, very simple. Andy Reid had a half to recognize that Todd Bowles was disguising almost everything. And in a 30-minute halftime, Andy Reid couldn't do anything about it. And that is when you know you have a great game plan. When a fantastic offensive coach like Andy Reid has 30 minutes to say, okay, all right, let's see what we got and let's fix it, and couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, that was shocking to me as someone that's watched the Chiefs my whole life and very closely since Mahomes has been there and Reid's been there. And that they didn't, even if they still would have lost maybe, that they didn't have a counterpunch the entire game. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was coming. I thought maybe it was too late, but I thought it was coming. It never came. All right, let's leave the Super Bowl for a moment. If you're a Seahawk fan, what should your level of concern be right now about Russell Wilson's future with the team?
I just simply don't believe that they will trade Russell Wilson, nor should they trade Russell Wilson. I have no idea what the progress would be if you trade Russell Wilson. I don't see how that's a step in the right direction, even if you get a whole bunch of first-round picks or whatever. I think over and over again, it's been proven that a great quarterback, his value is almost incalculable. And if you've got one, I don't understand how you get better by either like drafting one because you think he's really good or whatever. I just don't believe John Schneider's going to trade Russell Wilson. We'll see, but I can't see it.
I just want to follow up quickly because I agree with you. I think unless the play, Deshaun he so clearly wants out that maybe would hold out. I don't think Russell Wilson's anywhere close to that. But even if you're not going to trade him, you also want him to be happy. Do you think he went on Dan Patrick's show today and said, basically, I want a seat at the table. I want to be a part of the decision-making process. Do you think, in your experience around the NFL, that makes sense for them to grant him that, and that that's something the Seahawks would grant him?
It depends on how big a seat at the table that he wants, okay? Like, for instance, John Schneider, who's a great scout. He's the one who drafted Russell Wilson 75th overall in 2012. And if you ask for a seat at the table, and again, I heard what Wilson said, and I do understand what he said, but let's just make one thing clear. If you ask for a seat at the table, then you have to be willing, in this particular case, are you going to watch tape on all the receivers in the draft? Are you going to watch tape on the offensive linemen in the draft? Are you going to do all those things and then say to Schneider,
right,
hey, if I were you, I would draft John Doe of Oregon Tech?
Sure.
Those are the questions that I think need to be answered. I think more logically, I think Russell Wilson saying to John Schneider and to Pete Carroll, listen, we have got to spend some free agent capital or some very high draft capital. We need a long-term tackle in this building right now. And we haven't drafted great on the offensive line. So I think that is probably more likely what Russell Wilson meant, instead of saying he wanted a part-time job in the offseason as a scout.
Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBCSports.com. Peter, extraordinary coverage all season, as it is every season. Thank you so much. Hopefully coming up you get some well-deserved time off. I appreciate you, Peter.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick.
Absolutely. There is the great Peter King. Here is the equally great Joy Taylor with the news.